Man, I'm glad to get to talk to this guy today after reading over the memories of your inner circle and what they shared about you, Sean Reaver, Zach Hester, Thomas Wilson, and Doug Ott. And I got a small blurb from a guy named Coach Johns. The memories, after I read over those memories, I was like, man, those are good memories. And it really resonated with me. So excited to get your perspective on things and where you're at today and where you're at in life. So here we go. This is Tyler Goble, Navy Football Inside Linebacker Sr of 2015, class of 2016, a quantitative economics major. So he was one of the smart guys, 3.35 GPA.
Yeah, 3.4. Yeah, that's pretty close. You bracketed it all. That's good.
All right. So this is him. From Plymouth, Michigan, native, born and raised. In his military service and infantry platoon commander, he had weapons platoon 3-6, which means 3rd Battalion, 6 Marines in the great USMC, and became a data scientist at the Marine Corps Recruiting Command. Today, alongside his wife, Lindsay, in Washington, D.C., they founded LTG Investments, a versatile firm in real estate, design, data science, now residing in D.C. You dedicate yourself to community service and, kind of side hustle, side nonprofit, side, purpose is Unbound Now.
Yep.
An anti-human trafficking nonprofit. I actually looked up that website today. Pretty cool.
Yeah, they do awesome work.
Really proud of what you're doing there just by looking at the website. So that's awesome. Lastly, working on a cool DC initiative, Capital Creators and Champions. His hobbies, building software applications, and I have a question about that.
Yeah.
Small group church. Getting taken for walks by my wife, Lindsay. And that, my brother, is a good thing. You'll have to tell me more about that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right, that's the intro. Now, getting into memories, we got Zach Hester first up. Tyler is a great man and brother for us all. Fourth quarter story. I believe it was during an off season before senior year. There were, a few mornings, unusually cold temperatures. Imagine that. During warm-ups, it was windy on Rip Miller, and most were trying to feel their extremities in the cold. And so early in the morning, for people that don't know what fourth quarters are, it's that before spring practices hit for all college football camps throughout the nation, there's this couple of weeks, one's before spring break, one's after spring break, where you get to go out at, I want to say 4 a.m., but I think in my mind it's like 3 a.m.
It gets earlier every time you go back to think about it.
Exactly. And you get up and you go out there and you just get your stuff pushed in. And so it's always really cold. Sometimes there's ice on the field, but it's pretty high intensity. It's an HIT workout for an hour-ish. But when you got there, Tyler was on the front quoting Gladiator. Well, more like screaming, "If you find yourself riding alone in green pastures, do not be afraid. For you are in," and help me with this word, Elysium? Elysium, because I haven't watched Gladiator in a while.
Yeah.
Elysium, and you are already dead. So that's a note on my checklist to look up and understand better. So
that is funny.
Which, when you did that, you were like kind of hysterically laughing about. So,
oh my gosh, that is funny, Zach.
Yeah, he said Tyler intimidated The weak-minded motivated the rest. He was the front runner without a care of circumstance, inviting the pain to come and bring the energy. Tyler always, met any obstacle head on, usually with a smile and tenacity. As Tyler would say, God hates a coward. I'd be shocked if he doesn't bring that phrase up.
That's funny.
Definitely an inspiration. So, next one, Sean Reaver. He is incredibly consistent and disciplined. I think there's a theme there. I think they all said it at some point. In college, he always has black coffee. I would say there's a theme there too. Before practice. Always first in line for drills. Never misses Sunday church. Also a theme. Wakes up early to journal, pray, read the Bible, gets his thoughts in for the day with coffee, of course. So, next one, Thomas Wilson. If Tyler commits, it will be 100%. He doesn't do half measures. He doesn't do just a little bit. No, you're all in. As a friend, teammate, Marine, husband, Christian, real estate, or data scientist. For example, one thing Tyler's extremely committed to is maybe some Miller Lite. Might be the only one that he goes for.
That's funny.
He's also extremely committed to Navy football, and that was his funny part. So, committed to Navy football, goes to most, home games, keeps up with the teammates, etc. Probably watches every single snap of Navy football, but no snaps of non-Navy football. So,
all right.
Cool. On a serious note, he's incredibly committed to his wife, faith, real estate, and Marine Corps. He taught himself data science, coding, to be better at investing. He actively seeks out a church wherever he goes, gets stationed, forms relationships. And he will tell anyone that listens that being married is the best thing in the world.
True.
And then he said maybe because otherwise he would have to starve or never have any clothes. So, all right, last one. Dogot, your roommate, played Navy football, did some trainer time. Tyler is one of the most principled people I've ever met. He follows his moral compass, which is grounded in 1, strong Christian faith. 2, sticks to his guns, your principles. Tyler's also not a fan of the rules. ... that he doesn't see a bias for. Like tie that back into principles. Strong Christian faith. Like what makes sense? And then, maybe a rule you broke was not being able to have a coffee pot in your room, but you had it locked up in your confidential locker every day so you can make that coffee. So, on your energy, you got hurt in the second to last game your senior year and weren't able to play against Army in a bowl game against Pitt. That you were an ultimate team guy and you made your impact felt by just running around the practice field screaming, "Come on, cousin," and bring the energy. Last month of the season, it's kind of like the finish line is there, and I just got injured. Oh, my 1-minute mile turned into a 50-second mile, but I'm going to keep pushing. And that's kind of, my takeaway on this is that's a pretty good good story. Tyler told me one day in the spring of our senior year that to bring the energy, it was going to be his last official leadership style, quote unquote, as a Marine. And when you decide to become a Marine officer, you decide to read every single Marine Corps book that you get your hands on. When you were they were driving somewhere for the weekend, and most of us were trying to forget about the academy for a few days. Tyler was sitting in the back of the car reading about stories of Marines from Iwo Jima. And I'm about to close this out, but I got to hit the last couple. When Tyler decided he wanted to get involved in real estate and investing, have an impact on human trafficking, he also dove in headfirst. No one is more dedicated to a passion than Tyler, and I truly admire that. When Tyler decides he wants to do something, he is truly all in. And all in is a theme throughout all the memories on multiple wave levels. So that's pretty good.
Man, their checks are in the mail, so only had, I think it was like $100 each for them to say all those nice things. So
gotcha.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. I got one last memory. Coach Johns, his senior year in 2015 was an 11-2 team.
Yeah, we roll.
He also said Tyler always gave all he had. So that's it. Story time. Turn it over to you. Say what you want.
Man, I didn't know that was going to happen. Jeez.
Boom.
Like, I love those guys, man. Like, the formative years of my life are 1,000% playing Navy football, playing with those guys, living with Doug, like pretty much living with those guys. Like you spend so much time with your teammates, and man, it's so much fun now getting to look back on it. And I don't know. I'm kind of speechless, honestly. You got me on my heels right now. That was
Dude,
crazy.
that's why I start so I normally make an intro, but I made a special blurb of an intro for this one because I was like reading over the memories. I was like, man, those are killer memories. And like, I want people to say this about me. So I need to really open this up for this guy because this guy has a past of doing the right things consistently. So
Man,
that's why I did that.
Well, I appreciate that. If half of what they said is true, then I'm gonna go to my grave happy. So, man, that's great.
Boom.
So,
Winning. Yeah, man. So take us to, we heard the intro memories. Where'd you come from? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah.
What brought you to Navy from there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from a little kid, I'd always wanted to play football in college for some reason. Like, and it was weird. It was just college. It wasn't like the NFL. So for some reason, I was like, I want to play college ball.
Well, when
No
you're
NFL
that young,
aspirations.
college is the NFL, right?
Yeah, right. Like I know I had one of my coaches. They played in college, and a couple of them like played for Michigan, and so they bring their helmet. And from like age 7, I was like, you know what? I want to go play football in college. And that was pretty much it. Like, I was like, that's what's going to happen. And so from that age up through high school, that was my driving force. I was like, I'm going to play ball. I'm going to like do as much like as I can playing football. And I called every college in the country, like literally every single one of them. Yeah, every D1 school.
What about Texas?
Called Texas, called
Nice.
everyone. I
What
would
about
show
Rice?
up. Yeah, I called Rice. I called them
Man.
all. Every single school you got on a list, I called them. I sent them my film. I went to camps. There were multiple times where I go to Penn State's camp. I'm from Michigan originally, so drove out to Penn State with my dad, did their camp, slept in the car, did Ohio State's camp the next day, like went back home, did another camp the next day, and was just super, super motivated to do football in college. And so for me, like it didn't matter where it was as long as it was Division I and as long as I was like in doing it. And so I got strung out quite a bit by a lot of schools, probably like a lot of guys do. And when
Yep.
you sling as much mud as I did, like there's plenty of opportunities for school to do that. Like if you talk
Yeah.
to everybody, there's at least 4 or 5 schools are going to be like, you know what, he could probably
Well,
walk on.
that's impressive though. Like slinging mud on all the schools across of America. Like,
This was
good
back when
idea.
like
Like,
24/7
if
sports was kicking off. Do you know, have you ever seen them?
yeah,
They're like
I
the
think so.
ranking thing, like
Yep.
Rivals and 24/7. That was when
Yep.
24/7 was just now starting, and like Rivals was the only ranking agency. And so, it was like at the dawn of people like posting links to highlight tapes. Like I was sending CDs and DVDs and stuff like that.
Mine were VHS, so
Yeah.
I got you.
So, but that allowed a lot of schools to kind of string me out. So I had some offers to like Division I, double A's, Ivy League schools, some MAC schools. My brother, he played at Bowling Green State. And
Nice.
so that's a MAC school, good MAC school. And when he was there, I think they won the MAC championship. So they were doing well. And I had originally committed to them
I bet you
when they
probably
offered me.
beat him up a time or two. Probably
No,
getting a few fights.
he's a DN, so he's a little bigger than I am.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and the way I always like describe Ronnie when we're talking about football is like he was like 50 times more athletic than me, but his only problem was he wasn't playing when he was 7. He was doing other sports. And so I think had he done what I did, like he would have been potentially like NFL caliber. Like he was like a 4'6", 4'5", 40 kind of guy. Um,
Yep.
really, really physically talented. And as he went on in college, like you could tell, like was turning into dominant. Had like 2 knee surgeries though, like tore his ACL a bunch of times. Um,
Mm.
but anyways, like so I had been committed to them, but I was committed to them on the condition I was still able to talk to another couple schools. And I basically told Bowling Green that I was going to stay committed to them until the end of October. And then at that point, I was going to either just stop talking to these other schools or I was going to decommit and kind of open things back up. And I actually talked to Navy and they like told me to buzz off. They were like, we don't think you're any good or something. I don't know what it was.
Yep.
But they ignored me when I tried to reach out to them. But October came and October went, and I was still like getting sweet nothings whispered in my ears about these different schools. And so I was like, listen, I'm gonna decommit. Um, so I would appreciate if you don't pull my offer, but I would like to continue pursuing these things. I think they had some legs. And when I did that, that's when Navy came in and that's when they offered. And so I hadn't had a clue what Navy was. Like I had zero idea that one, it was even a college. Like it's like a bunch of enlisted guys like running around playing football. Like what is that? Um,
Yep.
but then went to the Army Navy game, met guys like Tyler Simmons, Nerthen,
Nice.
Matt Brewer, those guys, that generation.
You still talk to Tyler?
I haven't talked to Tyler in a long time.
Yeah.
No, but I wore his number. I wore 54. So he's like my great grandpa, or he's my grandfather, I think. And now I've got like great grandkids running around
Yeah.
wearing 54.
I'm trying to get him on here too. So
Yeah, I need to give him a
push
shout.
him.
He was my TAD on my official visit, and
Nice.
so he introduced me to his sponsor family and all that kind of stuff. So he was a huge part of me going to Navy. But
Cool.
kind of push came to shove, and it's like if they don't tell you this, like Navy doesn't fill up. There's no scholarship limit, so I was able to ride the lightning all the way to signing day. Lo and behold, none of these quote unquote big name schools ended up coming and signed the Navy, and definitely like best decision I made my entire life was going to the academy. The friendships I
Awesome.
made, like you guys just heard 4 of my absolute favorite people in the world that I still talk to every day. Love those guys. And had I not gone to Navy, I just know I wouldn't have had deep connections like that with folks. And so I'll forever be grateful that they took a chance on me and let me come and try and play there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So what comes next?
So what comes next is finding out that everybody's really good at football and it's not just you. And so getting the Navy is like we were talking before we started recording about the Dublin, Ireland game freshman year. And like,
Yep.
I didn't go to that game. Like, I didn't travel like all freshman year. I think I dressed for like 2 or 3 games. But other than that, I was watching from the stands, which at Navy is not that an uncommon thing. Like, usually, unless you're like pretty talented as a freshman, you're not necessarily going to dress for every game.
Yeah. I
And
only knew of Jeremy Miles in my freshman year moving up. Keytrick Buffin, I think, was another freshman that moved up. I can't think of any other freshman. Oh, White Middleton. So
yeah,
it doesn't happen very often.
no, it doesn't. And that was a shock to me because I was like, I thought I was pretty good. And you get to play college football and you see the type of athletes that exist. And like the line is just so thin between like even like the 4th string guy and the 1st string guy in a lot of positions
Yeah.
that it came down to a lot of different things. But freshman year, I was just definitely not good enough to even do anything other than practice squad, which drove me insane. And so heading into sophomore year, I was like psychotic. I was just sprinting as fast as I could everywhere I was going, doing everything humanly possible to get an edge. Like, I don't think I took leave more than a couple days that summer because I was like, I've got to get every single ounce of going like 100 miles an hour, or else I'm going to get left behind sophomore year. And I was like, I can't let that happen. And thankfully, like, I was able to get on some special teams sophomore year. In the first game against Indiana, I pulled my hamstring and blew my hamstring up on kickoff. And I was like, crap. Like, if you know anything about like college football,
Yeah.
it's like,
Right behind Achilles tendon, hamstring comes second.
Yep. And it's
Yep.
like, what have you done for me lately is the mantra, like it's not one of those things where if you're just trying to break into the lineup and you get hurt, that
True.
you're just going to get your spot right back when you're healthy. Like, that's not the case.
Yeah.
But
Consistency, right?
it's crazy. And so sophomore year was kind of recovering from that in the very beginning and then just taping that thing up and doing everything I could to get back on the field somehow. And at this point, I was still pretty, I think, selfish and like really wanting to play because I wanted to play. It wasn't like, yeah, I wanted to win games, but it wasn't one of those things where it mattered probably as much to me as the team did in a way. Like, I wanted to play. Like, I didn't want to get left behind. I didn't want to,
Dude,
like, be
we all
watching from
do.
TV.
We all want to play. We all want to play.
we
Everybody
all want to
listen to
get
us
in
right
there.
now. They want to play.
Yes.
But, like you said, team wins, but we want to play.
Yeah.
So,
but it's easy to say that. It's easy to be like, yeah, the team wins. I'm happy. But let's look in the mirror here, folks. Like,
yeah, exactly.
do you really feel like that?
Let's be real.
Yeah. So,
dude, I want to step up to the plate. I want to be, the guy pulling the sword out of the stone.
Yep.
That's just human nature.
And it's not like those are negative emotions and stuff, but like the true team thing solidified for me like heading into junior year. So like I had gotten really close with a lot of the guys by that time. Like after you sign your 2-for-7s and all that, and you bond with your seniors before they're about to leave, that's when it kind of clicked for me that like I actually, I still wanted to play really bad, and I did everything humanly possible that my body could do. Like one of my buddies, Joe Worth, a year older than us, we would always look at each other and be like, I got a whole lot of want to, just not a lot of can do. It's like I'm trying, and my body's gonna do it, but we'll see if I actually am good enough. But the big like mindset shift was like, am I good enough for the team? Like, what's the role that I need to play on this team? Like, I'm gonna try as hard as I can, but at the end of the day, as long as we win and as long as I'm contributing to that win by playing my role, that's where it like actually felt right. And so junior year came and went. I got to play linebacker. I rotated in a decent amount, played special teams. And then senior year came around, and like at Navy, you teach like the seniors like teach the younger guys the defense. And so I'm like teaching the guy who's way more talented than me everything that I know about the defense in like spring ball in the summer. Like I'm telling them how to do all the different things and give them as many different tricks. Like I was always a very like analytical player, like film study, like my advantage was always just knowing where I needed to go. And then if I could get there fast enough, then I could make the play. But I wasn't a guy that could afford to take wrong steps, And so senior year came around and it was the same thing. But the difference was I just knew that I was doing everything I could for us to win games and I was being the best teammate I could be. And truly, like, me playing, it didn't matter as much as us winning or my buddies that I had been there for 4 years, like them playing and them like having a huge moment. Like one of my buddies like making a pick. I think Don has been on this podcast. Like one of my favorite memories of Navy football is him getting a pick at linebacker. We played the same position and like him almost like taking it to the house and then coming to the sidelines and celebrating on the sidelines.
Nice. I had dinner with him in Vegas maybe about 2 months ago.
Okay.
After I was looking for a new job, I went to this conference. I was, and he was like, "Hey, you're in Vegas? Hit me up. Let's go get some food." So good story.
Yeah. I'm going out to see him in a couple weeks here for a conference, but we're gonna go get breakfast and coffee and stuff. But you guys probably went to the diner, cool. his family's restaurant, or did you go to somewhere else?
Somewhere closer to where I was staying. It was a diner. I don't think it was his favorite diner. Okay. Maybe gotcha. A competitor. So
yeah, he was probably poisoning the food in the back. One. Yeah, got it. But that was my Navy football experience. It was like not. I think the thing that I learned the most there was like what it actually felt like to really be like in a team and not making it about yourself, really making it about the team. So
cool. So that was the Navy football experience. I got to ask, do you have a fun coach story or memory from a certain coach saying or anything like that?
So Coach Johns, I probably drove him crazy because I was, like I said, I was psychotic. Like I was doing I would wear all white.
We were all psychotic back in that day. It's all good. You weren't alone.
I would wear all white to practice every day because I was like convinced that would make me one, look taller and look faster. And like, I think it was the last couple weeks of the season, my senior year, he's like, Goble, why are you wearing white? Like, why do you have those gloves on? Those are from like Ohio State.
Well, he would say stuff like that to Clint Sovey too, and Ross and me too. So like that's not a outlier type of comment from Johns. He's got to keep it light too, just like we have to. When we go into work, we got to have that one or two people that were just like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah. But one specific thing was I think it was junior year camp. So it was coming off sophomore year. It's like junior year is like, okay, this is the year that I could probably break into the rotation. And we had moved like a couple really talented guys into the inside linebacker room, which was like a code for being like, I don't think Goble's the guy. Like we need to get some horses in here. And so I was running around with my hair on fire doing special teams as hard as I could because I knew for sure that was my foot to travel, was making sure I could do special teams really well. And I just remember being in the film room one time and he's like, guys, and the way Coach Johns would talk, he'd be like, so-and-so, you've got to start doing better at special teams. And he's not talking to me, but I'm like sitting in there, like front row with like my notes, like ready to go. And he's like, so-and-so, you have got to start doing better at special teams. And he goes down the line to like 4 other people. And I'm like, Jesus, I'm like, what about like I'm trying really hard. And like, I've been doing good at special teams. Like, and so it was one of those things. And he's like, he said blatantly, if you guys don't start doing better at special teams, I'm going to have to start giving Goble reps. And I'm in the room. Oh my God.
Hey, I would say, based off of my limited life experience, that's a good thing.
Well, I got to travel and I got to play some. So who knows? But it was hilarious. I was just like, am I insane? Am I in the room? Does he know I'm in here? But
no, he definitely knew what he was doing.
Yep.
So don't take it as a bad thing. It's definitely a compliment. So what about like, do you have a greatest memory on the field? Like I remember this one day This
I
was
don't,
amazing.
I
What
don't
was
know. It
that?
was all just so good. I mean, senior year,
Okay.
we had such a good season, and it was like that entire year felt like one huge long week where it was like you're just so in sync with everybody on the team and everybody's pulling the same direction. And it was one of those experiences where like when I was in high school, I had a really good like team in high school. Really gelled with my buddies. Like I was just at one of my old high school teammates' weddings, and I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to get a team like this where truly like I love these guys, like they're the best. And then senior year, it was like that again, which those are the kids I played when I was 7 years old with. So like growing up from 7 until 18, like playing like a dozen seasons with the same guys. Um, but in at Navy in a period of 4 years, we got to that same level of like trust and stuff. So
Awesome. Good stuff. All right. So you leave the academy, you go to Quantico,
you know,
or yeah, it's Quantico.
you know.
Become a Marine Corps officer. Tell us how that whole Marine Corps after graduation transition to Quantico to, where you go to in infantry. How does that go?
Yeah, so it was one of those things where I was just trying to find the locker room again. I actually went to TBS with Sean and with Thomas, so they're both Marines too. And in my mind, it was like when I told my mom I was going Marine Corps ground. At first, she was like, "Nah, I don't know about that. Like that seems a little crazy." And I was like, "There's no way I would go infantry though. Like I'll just like go do something that's not that like insane. Like I wouldn't do that." But then over time, it
Yeah,
was
if my
like,
son got drafted in a few years, I would tell him to go Air Force. So I feel her.
yeah, but it was just one of those things where like all those guys, all those heroes in my life, they all went Marine Corps ground, and they all went infantry. And when I got there, it just clicked for me where it was like, those are my people. Like those are the guys I want to be around. And so thankfully got selected for infantry out of TBS and did another 3 months at Quantico, running around the woods there, and then showed up to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina for my first unit, which was 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines, and got to lead Kilo Company's weapons platoon. And so that's like all your machine gunners, rockets, mortars, explosives, like all the stuff that goes boom is kind of co-located in that platoon in a rifle company. And so did that for 2 years. Got 2 years of platoon commander time, which was great. Loved it.
Yes.
Went to good old Okinawa for a UDP as my deployment, and floated around. Went down to the Philippines. Went to mainland Japan. Um, and got to just have a blast with those guys. It was literally like being on a football team again with just these lance corporals doing like the dumbest things, but you still love them.
Yeah.
And then sometimes just doing stuff you're like, wow, man, that was like incredible. And so um, did 2 years of that, and then went over to weapons company to be the XO over there. And so that's just kind of where all the heavier weapons are in an infantry battalion. And from there, I was getting ready to get married. And so when I got back from when I first showed up to 3-6, that's when I met my wife through one of my other Naval Academy roommates. And so he was actually dating her friend. And when I was at IOC, he connected my wife and I. Um, and I was too busy to be doing anything but like eating food and drinking water and walking around in the woods. And so I didn't think too much of it at first. But then when I got down to Lejeune and checked into my unit, we had some downtime before they got back from 24th MU. And so when they got back, I started talking to Lindsay, and we're kind of like going on like what Thomas was saying about like being 100 miles an hour all the time. From the first time we talked to her being in North Carolina was like 9 days. And so she went to Dallas Baptist in Texas. So that's like kind of the Texas roots for us. Um, and we
Great
were
state.
just great state of Texas, the great nation of Texas. But we were just of the mind where I was 22, like I wasn't looking to get married necessarily, but I wasn't like shutting the door on that. And we were like, you know what? Why don't we just meet each other immediately, find out if either of us are crazy, and like not waste our time talking back and forth, and do a long distance thing when we've never even met each other in real life. And so bought plane tickets, and from there it was like a year's worth of long distance dating, and then we got engaged, went on UDP, came back, got married 2 months after that, and we've been married for about 4 years now. And it's just like
Nice.
like Thomas said, it's the best thing in the world. Like I love marriage, I love being married.
Does
And
she cook for you?
I think I think you say, does she cook for me or care for me?
Cook.
Oh yeah, yeah, she's like a phenomenal cook. So
Nice.
thank God, because I was eating like plain chicken breasts and tortilla wraps when she found me. Breakfast for dinner like every night, you know.
Yeah.
But so that led me into Weapons XL, and from there I was kind of at like the jumping off point. So that was like 4 years in the Marine Corps by the time I got there, and I got orders out to Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California. Which, if you don't know, that's like a 6 year commitment. It's not, it's not 4 years. It's not like 3 years. It's 6 years. And I was standing on top of a observation post, and we were like doing a call for Fire X in Camp Lejeune, and my battalion XO called me, and I remember vividly, it's like looking over like on the backside of the berm. I'm like, sir, like as long as it's not like 6 years or something crazy, like I think I would probably do it. And he's like, okay, yeah, it's definitely not 6 years, and then hung up. And so I get home from that field exercise, tell my wife that, hey, it looks like we got orders to NPS. I think it's like in a 4 year commitment, but not really sure. Got to figure that out. But we'd be living in Monterey, California for 2 years. And she's like, oh, that'd be cool. Like, I'd like to do that. Um, and,
Sure.
and so by the time we figured out it was 6 years, we had already gotten like emotionally committed to being like 2 years in California would be pretty fun. Um, and so we went ahead and signed on and took those orders and headed out to Monterey, and that's where I
That
got my master's. But
my favorite place to live in my entire, life's journey is Carlsbad, California.
yeah,
That was awesome, dude.
I mean, it's
But
California's, you're paying for the weather. It's awesome.
well, true. But in my mind, it was worth it.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
we were just out
Had
there
a
for a conference and visited the down in like Carmel and Monterey and stuff, and we're like, we'd love to come back. But
nice. Don't know those areas, but from my experience in California when I was there, while the price was high, I really enjoyed it. I think it's changed over the past 4 or 5 years, but um, while I was there, it was awesome. So
yeah, yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
So you do your time in the military, and what happens?
Yeah,
You
so that
decide to get out, or what's the trigger there?
well, that's kind of like we're at like a weird point now where when we checked into NPS, like when I first went to 3-6, I bought a house. And so I did like the classic, like one of the boys has got to buy a house, and we're all going to live with him. We'll pay him rent instead of somebody else. And I was the guy who bought the house. And so that was kind of my introduction
Of
into real
course.
estate. And
Yeah.
it was great. Like it was probably the reason why my wife and I were able to get married was because I didn't have a mortgage when I was living the whole time in Camp Lejeune, because I had four roommates that were paying me like $400 a month for their own like full bath and bedroom, and so it was like a
Good for
great deal for
you.
everybody.
Yeah.
And when we
I
got
wish I was
married,
smarter like you. Back in that day, I was like, man, I wish I was more entrepreneurial back then than I am now, because now I'm paying for it.
yeah, well, I don't know. I'll probably touch on that later, but like that was a huge moment for us was buying that house and like understanding really baby steps. Because as like a grunt, you are working all hours. Like you're not like all this
Yeah.
like side hustle
So
stuff that's
if you were a
popular now.
grunt with a family with 5 kids, how would that
Goodness.
go?
I mean, I think it'd be hard. Like I think that is
Yeah.
probably one of the hardest things is being in an operational unit, like as an actual like grown up adult, not some 22-year-old kid that is dating a girl that now he's getting engaged to her. They don't have kids. So I applaud folks that can figure that piece out because it is definitely hard.
Gotcha. I had to ask the question because it's come up on a couple other episodes, and when you said that, I was like, boom, that's a perfect situation. Like if I could go back and I could be in his shoes, like
Yeah. I mean,
doing it right.
we were super blessed. We had a lot of folks, a lot of football players too, that gave us great advice. and like
Chamois.
told us like, you know what, you can buy a house. It's not like you're getting locked into 30 years forever. Like just sell it. It's not like you're signing a contract that you're signing your life away. But when we got engaged, we were like probably not going to live in the frat house as a newly married
That's
couple.
a good thing,
And
I
so
think.
we looked for another house and we ended up, I don't know if you remember Hurricane Florence coming through on the East Coast back in like
Uh,
2018, 2019 timeframe.
Probably.
It like smacked all of North Carolina. And so we ended up actually buying one of those houses that got almost completely demolished. Like it had no roof, it had no insulation, it had no plumbing, it had very little electrical. And
Yeah.
so that's like a perfect house to
Whoever
like,
sold it didn't have the energy. You did. You came in.
yep.
You brought the energy,
That's
and
right.
you
That's
made it
right.
work.
Yeah. And so we bought that house and we fixed it up ourselves. And so kind of got to touch all the different pieces. And we got married. And then when we got orders out to NPS, we sold both the properties in North Carolina and bought a house out in Monterey. Um, but as a newly married guy, that's where we were trying to figure out like, okay, newly married, what do we do with money like you make in real estate, where if you sell a house, now all of a sudden you just got 50 grand, or all of a sudden you just got 40 grand um, deposited in your bank account. It's like not normal W-2 style
Yeah,
income
I just
where,
scratched off a lotto ticket.
yeah, yeah,
What do I do
but
with it?
like, what do you do with that from a generosity perspective? So like, we're very devout Christians, and so we always tithe off of our income, and so we give at least 10% of our money to a nonprofit or to the church. Um, and
Shamwell.
my my wife was like, "Why don't we give it to my mom's nonprofit?" And I mean, you've probably like heard people like their family has a nonprofit, but it's like they're feeding who knows what, like lizards in Arizona, and it's like some
Here's a
weird nonprofit.
nonprofit. I'm feeding
Yeah,
some pigs.
exactly.
Full of slop of my leftovers.
Yeah. And so she
Tucking it.
said that.
Yeah.
She said that, and I was like, what the heck? Like, what is the nonprofit? Like, I didn't really know about that. And she said it's called Unbound Now, and they're an anti-human trafficking nonprofit. And in my
Yeah.
mind, I'm like, anti-human trafficking, like, I don't have any clue what that is. And I also don't know if Susan's running this out of her garage on like a laptop and just like posting inspirational messages or something. Like, I don't know what's going on. Um, but I wanted to be a good husband, wanted to like have something that we both cared about. And I really didn't care where the money went at first. And so I was like, yeah, sure, babe, we can donate to Unbound. And so we gave like 5 grand or something to Unbound and like did other stuff with some of the money. And Susan called me and she was like, Tyler, just so you understand, for $5,000, we're able to have like a full-time employee in a country like Mongolia, Indonesia, those different kinds of places, and they do nothing but like stop people from being sold into slavery into places like China, all these other different spots where the American dollar just goes further. And so when she said that, I was like, oh my gosh, like 5 grand isn't a small amount of money, but it's also not a whole lot of money when you're considering like somebody who's
Yeah.
full time saving people's lives. And so that's when
Yeah.
we kind of made the pivot to go, you know what, like we flipped one house, like why don't we try and flip more and help provide more money for the nonprofit. And so we're a
When you talk
for-profit company.
about when you talk about human trafficking and nonprofits, I think of Black Rifle Coffee Guy.
Yeah.
Similar story, similar mission. You know what I'm talking about?
So like why he started Black Rifle, just to like connect
No,
vets.
no, it's not about the coffee. It's more about like the mission of the veteran community
Yeah.
attacking a problem or whatever. And there's the
Mm-hmm.
coffee company, and there's the not coffee company,
Okay. I wasn't aware.
nonprofit. No, okay, I'll,
Yeah.
I'll share something with you. The
Yeah, that'd
reason
be
why I
great.
say that is you never know who's listening. There's an algorithm. It might connect you. I don't
Yeah. Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, you would be shocked at like getting on podcasts and talking and like doing this.
Yeah.
is
Dude,
huge
there's
for
so much
nonprofits.
power in it because you never know who's listening. You never know who,
Yep,
can. It only takes one person.
that's right. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yep.
And that's like the thing that Susan says all the time. It's like human trafficking is such a huge problem, but literally it's like just save one more. It's like that Hacksaw Ridge mantra, like just save one
One
more.
at a
It's like
time.
how much would you
Yep.
give to like save your daughter, save your niece, or save your nephew from being sold into something that's just horrible? And so when she basically broke it down for me like that, I was like, okay, we'll go full spreadsheet mode here and be like, what would it take for us to like fund the whole thing or something crazy? Um, and so what we ended up doing was over the next 2 years out in Monterey, we built a business and started hiring some folks. And instead of kind of golfing for all my free time, we just spent all of our free time building LTG investments. And over a period of about 18 months, we flipped about 20 houses in Central Texas, but then also
We're
started
at.
kind of in Waco,
Nice.
good old
I'm from
Waco.
Liberty Hill. You know where Liberty Hill is?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
It's a small world.
No
But that's where
doubt.
Unbound is
When you said
headquartered.
Central Texas, I'm thinking Austin, but you said Waco, and then like, okay, a little north central. So
Yep, yep.
I
Kind of the
got you.
midpoint between Dallas and Austin.
Yeah, that's where Ross was from.
Yep, yep. But so that's what we got into when we were out in Monterey. And the whole time we were in Monterey, it was kind of like going back to sophomore year at Navy, where there was like a shot clock in my head, and I only had so much time to build this business before I was going to go back to the Marine Corps, back to a normal Marine Corps job, and do my 4 year payback tour. And so we were sprinting as hard as we could for 2 years, getting this thing off the ground, making it legitimate, and getting to the point where we could hire out all the things that I couldn't do when I was working in the Marine Corps job and have systems and have relationships in place to where we could have Lindsay do the things that Lindsay already does and then have an assistant or have bookkeepers and like have built a relationship with investors and stuff like that to not have to do anything that was time sensitive on my end so that I could still be active duty and do my active duty obligations, but the business wasn't just going to die because I wasn't there, which was a huge blessing because I mean, that's really when people start businesses, oftentimes they're just giving themselves a job. And so for us, we wanted to have a real business and we wanted to be able to run with minimal impact if I wasn't able to be there 8 hours a day working on that thing. Um, and so that has since gotten kind of turned into real estate as like a vehicle to help funnel funds from like our deals and whatnot to Unbound, but then also a way to kind of channel our own specific talents. And the the real estate stuff I'm doing now is actually more focused on like commercial real estate as well as like doing consulting work for real estate folks. And right now it's like leaning as hard as I can into the stuff I'm doing at the Marine Corps. So I'm a data scientist for Marine Corps Recruiting Command now, but that skill set that I work on like 8 hours a day at my normal Marine Corps job, I'm recycling those same skills into these different consulting engagements that I'm doing for folks from a data science perspective. And so LTG Investments started off in the single family home world, but we've kind of grown over the last 3 years into more commercial stuff. We still do some single family things. Um, and then a lot of like consulting and like business optimization stuff with the data science stuff. So I know that's a shotgun spread of a whole lot of stuff, but that's kind of where we're at up to speed now.
Yeah, dude, like you got my head spinning. It's all over the place. But long story short is you're still in the Marine Corps.
Yep.
You're still active duty, which I didn't know until tonight. Reading, all the stuff you're doing, like with what you just said, with you and your wife and what you got going on, you're still active duty and doing all these other things on the side. How do you do that?
I think we work a lot. And
Okay.
so we work a
All right.
lot. Um,
ShamWow.
when we first started the business, we came up with like core values. Like whenever you start a business, people are like, you got to come up with your core values. Like what matters to you? You don't know what matters to you. Like you think you do. You can have like a flowery mission statement, but like until you've kind of like been in the trenches, like stuff like All In, like Enom, like those things mean things to me. But
Sham. Wow.
the
Yep.
the
Once
core
you
values of
are in the
LTG,
trenches,
yeah,
you will discover those values, right?
yeah, and you find them. And for us, like in the last 6 months, basically we've figured out that what we care about is community. We care about people. We care about
Awesome.
work. Like we actually, I really firmly believe that like meaningful work is one of the best things that you could do for folks. Like I think having a
Yeah,
job and providing an
for
opportunity
sure.
for a job is so important for people, because I think we were designed to work. And then the tip of the pyramid is generosity, and that's usually financial. Like if we're going to be honest, like I think a lot of people will be like, you don't have to give to be generous. It's like, yeah, but you probably
Yeah,
can.
you do. Yeah.
You probably can give just because it's easier to
Yeah.
not give
Like,
money.
so when, and I've gone back and forth on this with myself internally for a while. I was like, all right, money is where we need to go. Money is how we have to make it happen.
Yeah,
And I'm like, no, money's not that big a deal. No, money is the enabler for generosity.
yeah,
And that generosity makes other really great things happen.
absolutely.
So,
And you know who can't give money? People who don't have it. So that's where we're passionate about, is like building really, really profitable businesses and helping people do that. And so for us, it's like generosity or community. So people driven stuff. Like we want to do stuff that's like good for people. So like fixing up properties, good for people. Like doing data science that provides jobs and helps businesses make more money, that those businesses that we work with are usually already generous. And so I know if I make like Tony more money, he's going to do something smart with that money. Um, and
yeah,
then,
I probably, if you made me money, I'm going to give you a tip.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
but the tip is in form of wages, like it's an
Yeah,
even
well, that
exchange.
tip might be, hey, I got a referral for you today.
Yeah.
I know this guy that knows this guy.
Yep.
So it just totally, like, it compounds
Yep.
like a, yeah,
And
it's
that's why
crazy how
community
the
is the
whole
core
thing
value.
happens. If you got that mindset that you were talking about, I'll turn it back over to you, but you got me pumped up right now.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, that's why community is the foundation. And again, going back to Navy football, it's like, do you want the team to win or do you want to be playing? Like, you want the team to win. And when you think
team
like that,
wins.
and when you do that, you will win and you'll care more about that stuff. Because we set financial goals for the business. We hit the financial goals. Guess what changed? Not much. Like,
The
it,
intangibles.
who cares? Like,
The
no one.
intangibles change over time.
Yep.
The next step, the one more mile, the one more connection, the one more phone call,
Yeah.
because of all that rewind, we all, had these same values, and we're in this giving mindset, and now all of a sudden things are exploding, then
Yeah.
you know
And it
why.
and it's a compound interest like problem. It's like when you consistently actually care about people and you give to them more without expecting anything in return, like, and truly not expecting anything in return. Like, you're not looking for a kickback. I'm just trying to help people. And what I've found in the last 3 years of entrepreneurship is all of my consulting clients have been referrals. None of them have been people that I advertise to. It's always been me just talking to people and actually caring about what their problem was or caring about them, and then them hearing somebody else and going, you know what, like Tyler could probably fix that thing for you. And then we get connected and then everyone wins. But um,
Shamwa.
it's just that's what we're really excited about, is building real community with people. And I was just talking at the game last weekend, um, where we beat good old UAB, and just looking around the tailgate and seeing all these different people and seeing people like talk to each other and like, man, I haven't seen these guys in like 6 years, and it's like you pick right back up with them. And that level of community that we had from the brotherhood is just it's so impactful. And I know that like anybody that made it through that program, like if they need help, all they've got to do is hit that distro and someone's going to bend over backwards to help them, you know? And having that kind of a
Yep.
safety net is just incredible. And so with all we've got going on, what we're really leaning into now is like our new kind of initiative is inside of DC, we're launching an in-person meetup in order to kind of try and bring that same level of community to just normal everyday people. And because like just because you played Navy football doesn't make you any better than anybody else. It does give you a whole lot of responsibility, I think, to give back and help other people out and connect people and help just show people what the world of possible is something I like to think a lot about. It's like if you just didn't know that you could turn right, so you're just going to keep going straight. But if you know that you can turn right, you might do that and it might be really good for you. And so that's where we're, with all the things we have going on, we're always trying to like foundationally focus on community. And so that's like the
Yeah.
thing that instead of doing a bunch of marketing for the business, instead of doing all those different things that you would probably think a traditional business would do, what we're actually going to start leaning into, and really we launched it like last week, was building real in-person community in DC where a majority of like Navy football players end up doing their last tour. I've found out like a lot of guys end up finding their way back towards the academy in some way.
Eighth and I.
Eighth and I,
That's a big one.
Quantico, TBS, like all these
Yep.
different places. And so that's kind of my next like entrepreneurial endeavor
Nice.
that weaves into the whole business.
Out of all the podcasts that I post and all the teasers and all that, I think Dallas Fort Worth is the number one like viewer, and then the second one is DC.
Is it really? Wow, that's
it
great.
is. It's fun to watch all that data, but
yeah, you're preaching to the choir about data. Yeah.
Well, I'll share my data with you. You can tell me what I need to be focused on so I can grow this thing bigger. So,
yeah.
Awesome. What do so for you, what's your biggest obstacle? The mountain that you're currently climbing, what's that for you today?
Man, it's focus. And you probably can tell from the like all the different pots that we have. It's staying
dude. I think
focused on something and not chasing shiny objects. And what's been really helpful to try and overcome that has always been finding one common thread through it all. And so for us, we're basing those common threads on community, work, generosity. And anything I'm doing that's not in line with those three things, we throw right out. But then unless it's also in line with like data science and doing like technical code work, then I also throw it out. And so that's meant saying no to a lot of stuff that opportunities that will pop up. Like when you run a business where a primary function of the business is raising money, like raising money for deals, like connecting investors to deals, you end up getting sent deals all the time. And so it's really easy to get shiny objects.
Hey, actually, I'm actually interested because I want to learn more about that. So I might call you after this.
Yeah, we can definitely talk. But the bottom line is like staying focused on something that's a common thread that allows you to be more efficient in whatever you're working. And so for me, it's like staying focused on community work and generosity. And any business venture that we enter right now has got to have those three things like teed up perfect. And then it also has to involve me being able to leverage skills like for the data science stuff. So long answer, short question.
Nice. Last one. Price of admission.
Man, I think the price to admission is really, really caring about more about other people than you care about yourself. And I don't know if you have to get married to do that, and you probably have to have kids. I don't have kids either, but I didn't realize how selfish I was until I got married. And I also didn't realize how selfish I was until I wasn't playing. I wasn't like a star player at Navy. But once those things clicked, and like at Navy, when it clicked for me that I actually cared about the team more than I cared about myself, and then getting married and actually caring about your wife more than you care about yourself, that's the price of admission. Like if you can do those things, then you can have anything you want. And what you want is going to be for other people too. So
No doubt. And you might say those things. I'm not saying this about you. I'm saying this about a general population. You might say those things, but until you totally feel it,
yep,
you'll understand.
So I got the chance to be on a board for an award at the Academy this past spring. And the question I asked those people on the board, the mids, was like, what is something that you really, really, really wanted and you didn't get? And it's like that answer to that question is a really telling thing for me. Where it's like, is the thing you really, really wanted, were you just trying to buy a house, or was it like, and why didn't you get it? You know? And so that's, for me, it was playing football. And I didn't get it because I wasn't quite good enough. But that was okay because we won. We went 11-2. We rule. So
yeah, better than us. We were 10-2. So you got a feather in your cap on me, brother.
No, not at all.
Nice. Well, dude, really appreciate your time tonight. I had some other questions written down, but I think you answered all of them throughout the conversation. I think you're definitely light years ahead of me with your age and where you're at right now. So for that, it probably challenges me a little bit. So like, I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I'm going to reflect on this conversation and be like, all right, where does Tony have to get better tomorrow because of this conversation tonight? And for that, I'm grateful for this podcast. And I'm also thankful for Lindsay. So tell her thank you for your time tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity, Tony. Really appreciate it, brother.
Cool.